Hey, composition students, I hope you're doing well. I want to continue working on this automation um, essay and talking a little bit more with you about the very big paragraph that you did some annotation on, hopefully, and posted in the discussion because there are some interesting things going on here. So I've got it on the screen and I want to read through and annotate, talk about, point out some things with it. So the problems associated with automation, the economy, and the workforce are nothing new. According to an article posted in the MIT Technology Review, Joel Mocher, a leading economic historian at Northwestern University, has spent his career studying how people and societies have experienced the radical transitions spurred by advances in technology, such as the Industrial Revolution that began in the late 18th century. The current disruptions are faster and, quote, more intensive, Mocher says. It is nothing like we have seen in the past, and the issue is whether the system can adapt as it did in the past. Through my own experience with my parents who have been working for Parker Hannifin for over 30 years, I can confirm some of the strain automation has put on the manufacturing industry locally. Parker Hannifin is a manufacturing company in New Britain, Connecticut that specializes in creating motion and control technologies utilized in various industries, including creating parts for aerospace technology. Recently, my father, who is 61, was demoted from supervisor of the tool and die section to the assembly line. Though he has been with the company for many years and is well experienced, a machine that relays management demands to assembly replaces him. Such age bias is common in a society constantly aiming for the next technological advancement. According to a recent article by NPR, ageism is the current job market. In the current job market begins at the application process, with many applications only accessible online in the increasingly digitized world. NPR reported in regards to someone of an older generation attempting to apply for a job online. The problem was the drop-down menu that required you to select the year when you graduated or got your first job. Those dates only went back to 1980. Madigan's office contends that could exclude anyone over 52. In this way, automation severs a working portion of the society, creating disconnects between older generations and the newer generations just beginning to emerge into the workforce. Okay, so one of the things that stands out to me here, other than there's some really long sentences that I would advise some revision on, to be honest. But one of the things that I notice is the combination of sources here, and I did want to point that out. So here, this source is, more of a research-based. So I'm going to type that in over here. Resource. All right. And then a little bit later, there's another same resource, but I'm going to highlight this so I can go back to it later. That's the first citation. And then we have this, through my own experience, which is a very different, so that's like a personal story. Or as we have also called it from back in the narrative unit, and again in the rhetorical analysis, the idea of anecdotal evidence. And then later we have a according to a recent article by NPR. Media resource. Okay, so in that long paragraph, you have a combination of different types of resources, the research-based MIT technology review, and then you've got the personal story anecdote about the author's parents, specifically his father, which takes up a big chunk, but it makes it more of a personal connection, which, as we know from our rhetorical analysis unit, evokes emotion, right? So that in some cases can be compelling. And then at the end, we go back to more of a traditional resource with this NPR report. So once again, this writer is using, he's synthesizing 3 different sources here to extend his argument and support his idea, his claim that automation has a negative impact on the American worker, and in this case, even in his family. So I did want to point that out and encourage you to think about your personal connection to an issue, and certainly if there is something relevant in your experience, to include that. And to, again, it doesn't take over this entire paragraph. There's not too much emphasis, there's just enough, and it's in combination. It's kind of sandwiched between 2 really well-known, reliable resources. So another thing to keep in mind as you are thinking about your issue and thinking about the possibility of research and evidence that you are going to gather. So I realize that you're still early in the process and maybe even still deciding what topic or issue you're going to write about. So I don't want you to be too concerned at this point if you're still not quite settled on a topic. But it is, I think, helpful just to know where you're headed. So I'm going to continue with another lesson to follow this one, where we'll take a look at addressing counterclaims, because that is something you'll want to do in your essay as well. So that'll be coming up next.